Hi, hoping everybody's on. So I'd like to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Emily Calderon Galdiano, and I'm the Director of Research for Excelencia in Education. And I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about celebrating Latino higher education success. And what we're talking about is providing some information on the institutions that both enroll, so provide access to our Latino students, and also complete, so graduate them and provide Latino student success in those terms. We'll be talking a little bit about Hispanic serving institutions, about Excelencia as a whole, and looking at some Latino student data through a positive and asset-based Latino lens. Okay, so if you have any questions, make sure to ask them, and I will answer them as at the end of the presentation. So thank you. Okay, a little bit to start off with. Let me give you a little bit of a background on Excelencia in Education. We are actually celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, and we are a national nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., and the focus is, again, we want to increase Latino student success in higher ed. And by doing this, one of the key aspects for Excelencia is that we want to provide data-based analysis. So any of the practices, any of the programs, any of the policies that we discuss, that we recommend, that we put on our site are going to be anything that's going to have actual data. So whenever we highlight certain programs, those are all data-based. They have the numbers to show that not only are they providing access for Latino students, they also have continued to track some of these numbers, and so that they can show how the students have been successful in higher ed. So that's one of the ways that we do it. The next thing that we do is we promote education policies and institutional practices that support Latino students' academic achievement. So one of the ways that we do this is we have lots of national partners. We have partners that are foundations. We have partners who are institutions. Others are community-based organizations. So we work with all of these different partners so that we can, again, increase Latino student success. That is the ultimate goal of what we want. We're not saying that at the exclusion of other groups, but more as to highlight the assets, highlight what Latino students bring to the table, and continue to encourage their success in higher education. Okay. The next one is we also work with community-based organizations, and it's kind of like what I was talking about right now, but we also work with Latino advocacy organizations, philanthropy, national organizations. So we do some work with the National Student Clearinghouse. We do some work with the White House Initiative for Educational Excellence for Hispanics. We do work with National College Access Network. So all different types of organizations that we participate with. And actually today we even had a webinar looking at prior learning for adult students. So we're not just limiting our stuff to the 18 to 21-year-old Latino student. We want to look at increasing Latino success throughout the entire pipeline. Okay. Then finally, we also highlight institutions who are promoting promising practices for Latino college completion. And actually, this past week, we had our most recent Examples of Excelencia event. And at this event, we have what's known as Celebración. And with Celebración, we celebrate the top institutions and the top programs who are, again, increasing Latino student success. And with that, let's see if I can show it here. Put it right here. So we had our Celebración de Excelencia, and this is our compendium for what works for Latino students in higher education. We actually have this on our website. And we have all of these different programs. So these programs are, again, are also database practices, and they run from being at the associate level to the baccalaureate level, the graduate level, and now we've also included community-based organization. So this is a fabulous resource to go out there to look at programs that we have seen are promising practices and have database effectiveness in increasing our student success. Okay, so let me see here. So that's a little bit about what Excelencia does as a whole. Now, my role at Excelencia is I'm a director of research. So a little bit about my background. I'm second generation. My mom went to college. So my mom went to college and graduated. I'm originally from Texas, so I am living and breathing being a part of a Hispanic Serving Institution. I used to work at one. So these are institutions who have at least 25% Latino student enrollment at their undergraduate level. So I worked and I've lived in this environment my entire life. So I'm here to help in any way possible. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the student profile when it comes to higher education. Many times what people look at is they tend to focus on have this mindset of the traditional student. This is a student who graduates from high school, goes directly to college, and lives on campus, and is a full-time student the entire way through. So what Excelencia did is we developed a student profile. So we have the traditional student profile and we have the post-traditional student profile. But before I go into comparing the two, I want to give you a little bit of details on Latinos in higher education. Many times what tends to happen is that folks look at Latinos and say, oh, well, their numbers are not where they should be, they're not graduating enough, and there tends to be this negative light. For Excelencia, our goal is to be asset-based, so positive. We want to highlight the successes that our Latino students are doing. We acknowledge the reality of what it is and acknowledge the reality of circumstance and acknowledge that we need to move the needle, but also encourage and support. So one of the ways that we do, again, it's looking at it through an asset-based lens. So actually, Latinos have higher college going rates than white and black students. So this is really interesting because approximately 70% of Latino high school graduates are enrolled in college right after graduating high school. It's compared to 56% of the black students and 56% of white students. And actually, there's a new article that just came out that's talking about and highlighting how Latino student dropout rate has reduced drastically. So now in 2013, the Latino student dropout rate was only at 14%. Now, granted, yes, we still want to improve that, but considering that in 2000 we were at 32%, we have really moved that needle forward. And so that's one of the things. So we want to highlight that Latino students are completing completing high school at higher rates, and those who complete high school enroll in higher education at higher rates than their comparable students that are white and black. Now, not just looking at enrollment. So Latinos are also the second largest racial and ethnic group in higher education. Granted, our numbers are not as high as the white students, but we also want to highlight that 2.8 million Latino students are enrolled at the undergraduate level. So yes, we have 10.2 million here that are white, 2.6 million who are black, and 1.1 million Asian Pacific Islander. But this number is growing. The numbers of Latinos who are enrolling in college are growing. We know that in the K-12 population, we know Latinos are the youngest population, have a younger average age in the country. And so we also know that they're going to be continuing to finish in their K-12 to come to college. So this number will only continue to go up. We expect this to increase faster because according to the U.S. Census, 27% is the percentage increase that they expect for Latinos in the next, from 2011 to 2022. So considering that we're already at 2014, in the next 8 years, there's going to be this increase of enrollment for the Latino students. Look at that compared to the percentage for whites at 7%. So again, increasing numbers, we've got to be ready for this influx of students who will be coming, who are currently already getting ready to start attending our institutions. Now, what's interesting to note is that the majority of Latino students are concentrated in a small number of institutions. For 2012-13, we found that 60%, actually 59% of Latino students enrolled at just 370 institutions. So these 370 institutions are 11% of all institutions in higher education. And these are known as Hispanic serving institutions. And we'll talk a little bit more about HSIs in a bit. But so this is a big chunk, considering that there are over 4,000 nonprofit degree granting institutions in the country. And these 370 institutions enroll nearly 60% of all Latino students. So talk about looking at the institutions where you get more, provide more services and are there to, are addressing the need for our Latino student bodies. Now, when it comes to Latinos in higher education, we've also found that the majority of Latinos are enrolled part-time. So we've got things like, so we've got students who are enrolled part-time, and we know that that takes longer to get a degree. The majority of students will start going full-time first semester, the next semester they'll drop to part-time, or they may be going to a couple of different community colleges. That's, again, the reality that many of our students face. So these are a bit of the data, the overall data for Latinos in higher ed. I didn't want to give you just kind of like all this data and be the data nerd. I am a data nerd, so I'm here to help. If y'all need any additional data, send us an email here at Excelencia, and we can help you out with some of that information. Okay, so here is the student profiles that I was talking about that Excelencia developed. So we have the traditional student profile and the post-traditional student profile. So let's go through the traditional student profile first. So this one, the traditional student profile, like I mentioned, the student is going to be considered to be college ready in that they don't need any kind of remedial education. They're ready to, they show up to campus and they're ready to roll when it comes to enrolling in their first classes. These are also going to be students who enroll full-time. And so some of these things, as they're enrolling full-time, again, this is more than likely, these are going to be the students who are going to be living on campus. And these are also going to be the students who enroll the fall after high school graduation. So if you look at this, enroll full-time, enroll the fall after high school graduation, live on campus, that means that that's really, the traditional student profile is really looking at the students who are anywhere from ages 18 to 21 when it comes to enrolling in college. These are going to be the students who graduate in 4 years, and their parents are going to have a college degree. The majority are going to be white, non-Hispanic. They don't work while enrolled because they're going to be enrolled full-time, so they are going to have some sort of like aid package or whatever so that they can continue to stay enrolled and not have to work. And these are going to be the students who are also going to make any of their college choices based on financial aid packets. What are the programs that the institution is offering, and and what type of reputation the institution has. Now, I will say that with my background and with my parents, I fit more of this traditional student profile. And went to college after high school, enrolled full time. The only thing I didn't do is I worked while going to college because I needed my spending money and I needed to pay bills. But all these different things. So we do have some students who meet this traditional student profile. We're not discounting that, but we are also we're highlighting the fact that many of our Latino students fit what is known as the post-traditional student profile. Post-traditional, okay? So these are going to be students who may need some sort of academic prep or remediation. And if they are these students, then they're more than likely going to be attending a community college, because they need to. That's usually where the institutions that are offering the remediation courses. They are also going to be attending part-time, because many times these remedial courses don't count for credit. So that's going to impact how many classes a student can take and the type of financial aid package that they'll be receiving. They may delay going into college right after high school because they need to work to make money to pay for school. These will probably be living off campus with their parents, or because they're older, may be living on campus with their own families, with their own dependents. They will take longer than 4 years to complete a college degree. We know that 4 years, that's if you're going full-time, and really if full-time, even though it's defined as 12 hours per semester, it's probably going to be, you really need to be attending more at about 15 hours per semester to graduate in 4 years. They're going to be their first in their family to enroll, so new to the higher education process. The majority are going to be Latino or African American, and they may work 30 or more hours a week. Now imagine working 30 or more hours a week while also going to college. That's going to be and have an impact on, again, how many classes that they can take, their study time, and again, time to degree. So these are going to be the students who are going to make their choices not so much on institutional prestige, but on how much is it going to cost me to go to school? Where is this school located? How fast can I get there after work or after picking up my kids from daycare and maybe going to a night class? How many classes are being offered so that it actually works with my work schedule and my family schedule? So we have to be thinking outside the box as we start helping out these students. All right, so a little bit on Latino college completion. When we look at the numbers for Latinos, we see that Latinos have at least have an associate's degree or higher. 22% of Latinos are at that level. Which is the lowest of the racial ethnic groups that we're tracking here. Blacks are at 31%, whites at 42%, and Asians at 60%. When we go to the baccalaureate level, we still are the lowest. At least 15% of Latinos ages 25 and older have at least a bachelor's degree. Okay? Compared to 22% of blacks and 32% of whites and 53% of Asians. So how can we address this? Again, let's look at the institutions where the students are enrolled. And these are known as Hispanic serving institutions. Now, Hispanic serving institutions, or HSIs, come through a federal definition. And the federal definition really says that an institution has to have at least 25% of their undergraduate students, looking at the full-time enrollment rate. So, which is usually 3 part-time students equals 1 full-time student. So the FTE, the full-time enrollment rate of at least 25% of their undergraduate students need to be Latinos. And in order, so then they have this federal definition, and these institutions can then apply for additional federal funding. Not all of them get it, but we track who these institutions are and how they've come through the years. So initially, HSIs were created in 1995, and we had 189 HSIs back then. In 2012-13, we now have 370 HSIs. Again, these are going to be the institutions where 60% of our Latino students are enrolled. And so with Excelencia, what we do is we've tracked these institutions. We have data for all 19 years of these HSIs so that we can make sure and see where they're located, see what types of ranges that they have for their actual student enrollment. So we found that some of the institutions are actually have anywhere from 25% Latino student enrollment to some are at 91%. Okay, so I want to go down these 370 HSIs and just kind of give you some general main data points from there. Again, this is 2012-13 because this data comes from the Federal Institutional Post-Secondary Education Data System, so IPEDS. And this data system, all the institutions have to provide data into it so they can get financial aid for their students. So 2012-13 is the most recent data that we have available. And every year, Excelencia updates this, and we'll probably be updating it, I think, in about February, once we get the new data from the federal government. Anyone can get this information. So we even have on our website a methodology if you want to create this list. All right, so we've got these 370 HSIs. 370 institutions represent 11% of all nonprofit post-secondary institutions. Now, we have over 4,300 nonprofit institutions, again, nonprofits, in the U.S. So these 370 are just 11%, so just a small part of the pie. They're located in 15 states and Puerto Rico. They enroll 59% of Latino students and 17% of all students in higher education. So one of the things that people tend to think about when they hear about HSIs, they think, oh, well, they're just for Latinos. And that's not the case. So many HSIs, yes, they are at least 25% Latino student enrollment. But they're also based on where they are located. So when we broke down the data and we really saw who the HSIs enroll, we found that they were pretty diverse. So they enroll 59% of all Latino students in higher ed. I keep saying that because that's a huge amount, the fact that 60% of the students are in this tiny portion of the institutions. They enroll 28% of all Asian students, 16% of all Black students. HSIs actually enroll more Black students than HBCUs. They enroll 14% of all American Indian students. Again, HSIs enroll more American Indian students than tribal colleges. And they enroll 10% of all white students attending higher ed. So it's a pretty diverse group of institutions there. And they're, like I said, they're located in 15 states. And they can even be in states that so obviously our biggest ones are going to be in Puerto Rico, California, Texas, New Mexico, Florida, New York. But we also have HSIs in Illinois, in Kansas. And so we're seeing that even in places where people don't think that there are Latinos, we have them there. Okay? Now, because we track this, and at Excelencia, we love data, we love numbers. So we also started tracking what are known as emerging HSIs. These are going to be institutions who aren't yet at that 25% threshold for enrollment, but are anywhere from 15 to 24%. And with that, we found that there's 277 institutions that are ready to get that mass enrollment and to become HSIs. They're on that threshold. And these are located in 31 states. So, I mean, if you look at that, we even have them in Indiana, Connecticut, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Again, states that aren't really necessarily known for having a lot of Latinos, but they're there. And so they're going to be, so we're tracking them to be ready to provide any kind of resources for these institutions. So one of the things when we're talking about Latino student access and success, we want to be looking at the numbers. So what Excelencia did is we ran the data for 2012-13, and we looked at who are the top 5 institutions, top 5 HSIs that are enrolling Latino students. So we broke this down to the 2-year level and the 4-year level. So as you can see here, we have the majority are going to be in Texas and Texas, and then we have a couple in California and a couple in Florida. So we've got EP El Paso Community College, the #1 for enrolling Latinos at 2-year institutions. So they're 85% of their student body is Latino. But then we also have East Los Angeles College, Lone Star College, Houston Community College, and Mount San Antonio College. So Texas and California are the lead here when it comes to enrolling. At the four-year institution level, we also wanted to make sure and track, because we have students, we are aware that students are attending both 2-year and 4-year institutions. So we want to see, okay, which are the institutions where these students are actually attending? And we found them. So Miami-Dade College, South Texas College, Florida International, University of Texas El Paso, University of Texas Pan American. And here you can see that you've got, for example, South Texas College, 92% of their enrollment is Latino. And then you've got Houston Community College. They're a top 5 for enrolling Latinos. We're going on sheer numbers here. 31% are enrolling Latinos. And so you can see that they, just because they have a high number of percentage doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be in our top 5. So when we're looking at this, the next thing that we want to do is we want to look at, okay, that's access. That's great. We want institutions to bring in our students and provide access. But who is serving them? So who is helping them go from retention to completion? All right. So we tracked completions. And we found that these are the top 5 at the associate level. We've got Miami-Dade. So we saw them here. They're enrolling students. But they're also, they're technically a 4-year institution, but they're graduating people at the associate level too. And so we found, so these are the Latinos, and this is the total. Okay. So we found the top 5, Miami-Dade College, El Paso Community College, South Texas College. Again, these were the ones that we talked about in the enrollment slide. Valencia and Broward. And then at the top 5 in the bachelor's level, we see FIU, UTEP, UTPA, Cal State Fullerton, and UTSA. All great institutions that are also graduating the top Latinos, graduating the most Latinos in a given year. And so this was looking at 2012-13. So this is all information that we have, and we have it on our site. These are going to be also what we found at the institutions that, just like anything else, we have at HSIs, the majority of the enrollment, I think it's 56% are women. The majority, and then we're going to have the students are going to be part-time, and the majority of these institutions are also going to be open access. So we track all of this, because then we want to be like, okay, if you're enrolling, again, we want to make sure that you're completing. So that's kind of like the data aspect of it. And so they wanted me to talk to the data part, because this was going to be for more of the advisors, high school counselors, that part. So then I also wanted to include something if we have any of our students attending this virtual college fair. So talk a little bit about like my personal reflections on how to make it through. I've worked at a university, I've worked in nonprofit, and I've worked in doing research, and being one of these students, and I've taught these students. So what does it mean? How did we get there? And so this is more advice for the students, and I guess for the advisors. But really, it's academic preparation. First and foremost, take the best classes, the highest classes that you can get into in high school, and prepare yourself. Get ready to be enrolled in higher ed. The courses are going to be a bit tougher. And I will say, high school and college are not the same thing. I was a great student in high school. My first year in college didn't do so hot. Because I thought, oh, I could study the exact same way I did it in high school, and I'm good to go. Yeah, learn that lesson real quick. That is not the way it is. You've got to be prepared, not just taking the classes, but learn how to study. And there's going to be a great session coming up on AVID and how AVID can help you prepare to be successful in school. Next, financial aid. Financial aid is key. I cannot stress enough filling out your FAFSA. Fill it out, because we have found that 80% of students who didn't go to college like right after high school, they've said it is because of cost. And with the FAFSA, that could be money that you are leaving on the table there. So that could be, so when we're talking about financial aid packages, you're going to be looking at grants, scholarships, student loans, and work study. So these are all encompass different parts of financial aid. Apply, apply, apply for everything possible. I had no shame when I was graduating. When I was my senior year of high school, it was about applying to every single type of scholarship that I could get my hands on, because I knew my parents couldn't afford to send me to school. So I wanted to make sure there's a certain school that I wanted to go to, and I needed to make sure that I could pay those bills. And so I was applying for everything. And I always share this. I share this story because we had a cheerleading competition, and I went and I got an application for a scholarship that was given by, believe it or not, Stay Free personal hygiene products. And the other cheerleaders were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're actually getting that application. And I said, this is free money right here if I apply and I get it. So I applied. Sure enough, I got a check from them for $5,000 for my scholarship that I was able to pay towards my school bills so that my tuition could come down. My friends who laughed didn't get the application, didn't apply. So again, get out there. There's going to be all sorts of scholarships, local, national. Get online and look for them too. College choice, the third one. Find the school that best fits your needs. There's many of our institutions. So a lot of our HSIs are going to be in communities where we have larger Latino demographics. If that works for you, then great, stay there. If you want to go somewhere else, okay, as long as you find the school that works for your needs. And it may require a transfer. It may require moving away from home. And that's very tough for many of our students, but it is possible. You can do it if you have your mentors, if you you get in with your group at the institution. There's a way to do it so that you can be successful. The institutions want to help you. And once you get into your college of choice, make sure that you speak with your advisors. The advisors are going to be the ones who provide, who can guide you through the process of selecting the classes, getting through the entire process, graduating in a timely manner. So many times we see with our students, if they don't understand a policy or they have a question, who do they ask? Their friends. And their friends can give one aspect of the answer, and then they'll ask another friend, they'll get another part of the answer. But if they would have just gone to the advisor in the first place, then we would see that they could have been put on a faster track to success. Now with that, the completion plan. We all go into school saying, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to stick to this, in a perfect world, this is how I'm going to finish. And that's great, and you should plan for that. But also plan for contingencies, because we tend to have plans where we show students, this is how you go from A to Z, from enrolling, from looking for colleges, to applying, enrolling, taking your courses, and graduating. And that's how you do it. But we don't talk about, okay, what about the student who had to leave because their mom got sick? What about the student who the classes weren't offered at their institution, so they had to transfer to another institution and then come back? So what about when life gets in the way? And we need to provide pathways to get our students back in so that they can complete in a timely manner. And then finally, campus resources. Take advantage of the different offices. They are there to answer your questions. Take advantage of, like I said, the advisors, of the organizations. For me, it was key. When I went off to school, I went from going to a high school where there was about 92% Latinos, a student body. I went to college and I was one of about 50 total students, 50 total Latinos. Talk about a culture shock. And I felt a little lost and saying, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And then again, remember I talked about how I used the same study skills that I had in high school and thinking that everything was going to be great, but it wasn't. So kind of dealing with that and dealing with, how am I going to make this? How am I going to graduate? I'm here to help my community, to serve an example to my younger brother, to my cousins. How am I going to do this? So I went and I spoke with my advisors, and I was there and asking questions, and not just to the official advisors, but also to my faculty advisor, and asking questions about, okay, these are the courses that I want to take. This is a career path that I'm interested in. Am I taking the right courses for that? What else can I do? There was a mentorship program. It was called Amigas Mentoring Program. And there was a program that upperclassmen mentored incoming first-year Latinas. That was huge for me because then I felt like I wasn't the only one that was going through this. I was talking with somebody who had been through it, who had succeeded and was persevering in spite of other, personal things that may have happened, but we're still going through. And actually, so then once that, and it helped me get through, I would then became an amiga and helping with the mentoring. And with that, I'm still in touch with both my mentor and my mentee. And this is, I'm going to age myself here, but I'm, 15 years when I was a student in high school. In college. And so the fact that we're still friends because you make these connections and get involved, be it in different, your social network. Yes, everybody gets involved on Facebook and, but make actual friends and working on the person-to-person contact, because there you'll also open up other networks. And it was through those friendships that I then got internships. And those internships open other doors to other avenues. So these are all things that can help you be successful through the process. And we're here to help, be it Excelencia, be it faculty, be it your advisors. Take advantage of all that. So this was my part where I talked about just on, I was giving the message for the students, and not as much of the data part. But as far as our resources, I would recommend that you get on our website, and it's www.edexcelencia.org. If you're specifically interested in HSI stuff, we have a new aspect of our website called www.edexcelencia.org/HSI-CP2. So I have a couple of questions here. That's it for my actual presentation. Now, I'm here to also answer questions, so make sure to, on the Q&A, that you type in your question, and I will make sure and answer it. I'll read it out loud, and I'll answer it. Because anything that we can do to provide it, serve as a resource for students, for counselors, for higher ed administrators, we are here. Okay, the first question is, do you recommend taking tough courses in college like in high school? I do, because when you're in college, you're also preparing yourself for the real world. And you don't want to skate through it. So there's a difference, and I'm a huge advocate about going to college versus just going to class. And I understand that many of our students have to work and can't always be there. But there is a way to do it. I'll provide myself for an example. I worked an on-campus job and an off-campus job, and I still pushed myself to take those classes with a double major and a minor. And so, pushing it to get them, because then when you take the class, you start thinking and you start learning about different ways to think and different ways to process. And then and what happens is when you take the tougher course, you meet with the professor a little bit more. And as you're meeting with the professor, then they're getting to know you too, and then they can open up avenues and for other opportunities. So I took a course, and it was one of the courses. I started off in one major and changed majors, and that's okay. You're finding out what works for you. So I took a course in one major and it changed majors. And with this other major, it was a lot more writing, a lot more analysis, again, doing more of the data. But as I was working with my professor, then he's like, I think you should apply for this internship. And it's interesting that professor would always call me Dr. Calderon. Dr. Calderon, how are you? Come here, let's talk about blah, blah, blah. And so then we would talk about different types of social movements or policy issues that were affected, because I was a political science student. And Dr. Calderon, and I would ask him, I said, why are you calling me Dr. Calderon? He said, you're the doctor, I'm just a student. And he says, no, because I see you as a doctor. I see you as being somebody that is going to continue to work on with this and get her doctorate and help her community. And Well, that's what I wanted to do in my life. I never actually verbalized it because I was scared that nobody would see me that way, and that who is this girl think she is, that she thinks that she's going to have her doctorate or anything. And I did. I graduated with my doctorate. So now I'm Dr. Emily, and I go back to that advisor, to that faculty member to this day, and I tell him, thank you. I said, it is because you believed in me that I was able to move forward. And I mean, how many times do we say that to our students? And how many times, I mean, even as adults, we think we're not good enough, and the impact that a person can have. So all of that stemmed from taking those extra courses, because you never know what's going to happen and who you're going to meet in these courses. So yes, totally, I would say I would encourage that. Okay, here's another question. Are HSIs just for Latinos? No, not at all. These are just going to be institutions who enroll at least 25% of their student body, of their undergraduate student body, is Latino. The services that they provide are for all students. So, but we focus on these because of the sheer number of Latino students who are attending at these institutions. But they are not just for Latino students. So we see that. Let's see here. What's the other question? Oh yeah. Should I just take 12 hours so that I can meet my financial aid, so I can make my financial aid and still be able to work at the same time? Okay. To qualify for financial aid, yes, you need a minimum of 12 hours to qualify for full-time financial aid package. However, if you want to graduate in 4 years, or as close to 4 years as possible with your bachelor's degree, I would recommend taking at least 15 hours a semester. Work with your advisor to see if this is possible, to see if if you can keep up your grades while doing this, and if you also need to work while doing this. But this is where I would encourage taking that extra course, because the longer you take to graduate, the less classes you take, the longer it's going to take you to graduate. The longer it takes you to graduate, the less likely you are to graduate. Now, that doesn't mean that that's always the case. So I always provide this other story. And this is my husband's story. He started off at a community college, took a couple of classes here and there, and was then there was that math class, that developmental education math class, right? That he is not a math guy, and he's never been. And so he would take it and wouldn't complete it, would fail or anything like that. And so he was working full-time, helping support his parents who were older. So he would take a couple classes and drop. When we met, he had been at the community college for 6 years. 6 years at the community college and had not graduated. And I told him, all right, honey, here, this is what it should be, a 2-year degree, maybe 3. We need to get you going on this. And so we found that it was that particular class that was causing some issues. So then we went he transferred over to a 4-year institution, and there graduated within 2 years, took the courses, went to the writing center, went to the tutoring center, met with his advisor and all this, and progressed quickly to degree. So it took him 6 years to get out of the community college. 2 years later, graduated with his bachelor's. He graduated with his master's, and now he's working on his dissertation, and next year he'll be Dr. Daniel. So again, going from someone at the community college that was kind of lost because he was afraid to ask questions, to now going to be a doctor and is helping out these students. So there's ways to get in there. Just because it's not a race. It's not a race. You get there in the pace that works for you, but try to continue to be moving forward. As long as you're moving forward a little bit each day. Okay, so one of the questions is, what's important for potential students to ask or find out about an HSI as they are exploring options? So one of these questions, look at the programs that the institution offers. Look at the services that they offer for students. Are they offering something for, if you're interested in engineering, do they have a STEM program, which is science, technology, engineering, and math? Are they offering a program to help you with that? Are they looking at, do they have a bridge program? So maybe you take some classes over the summer from when you graduated high school to when you graduated, when you start in college. So kind of to prepare you for it, so you don't get this like shock of your first day of class. You want to ask them, what are the numbers of students that they are enrolling, and are they graduating them? Because again, we don't just want to focus on the access part of it. And the important thing for success is we want to keep our students enrolled. We want them to come back from first year to second year. We want them to come back for their junior year, and we want them to graduate. If we can get them to come back for their junior year, then the numbers of them graduating, the percentages of them graduating, I mean, it's going to go up. So we need that. So it's looking at these questions, ask, and go to the campus and visit, and ask the students too. Now, again, when you're talking to the students, some of them are going to be more involved than others, but at least you're getting there and you're getting involved in it, and you're seeing the feeling that you get for that particular campus. And explore their website. I'm huge about that, because you can see some of the programs that they have, and explore, and you can see how they just explain them on their website, and then you can see it in person. Let's see. Hola, how can we contact you personally? Do you have social media like Facebook or Twitter? I do have a Twitter account. My Twitter account is @mcalgal. So EMCALGAL. My name is way too long to fit it in the Twitter handle, so that's how my friends know me by. Then you can also connect to our Excelencia. We have Excelencia on Twitter, which is @EdExcelencia, and we also have Excelencia on Facebook. You can also send us an email, and you can reach us through, or reach me through the Excelencia website as well. But yeah, through Twitter, the Facebook, I keep it as for my personal. So yeah, definitely reach out through Twitter @mcalgal. Let me see here. I think those are all the questions that I have. If anybody has any questions, please, type them in and the Q&A, and I will answer them. I'm here to help and provide any kind of resource that I can for students, for parents, and for administrators. So let's see what kind of questions y'all have. Throw them at me. See, I know that some of them, trying to think of my students. Oh, I will say this. I was a faculty member before I joined Excelencia, and I would encourage students to go to your faculty office hours. That's why we are there. We want to help you. We want to make sure that you succeed. So go and ask those questions. If you don't understand a question, if you don't understand something in the homework, in the assignment, in class, raise your hand and ask. If you're too embarrassed to ask, try not to be, first of all, because probably if you have that question, then that means a lot of other people also have that question. They're just also embarrassed to ask it. Or you can go to the office hours. Go and visit your faculty. Now, if let's say the faculty has an office hours that you can't make it to because you're working or you have another class at that time, send them an email and ask if they can meet at a different time. 9 times out of 10, the faculty member will make that adjustment. So I have had times where I taught a class from 7 to 10 at night, and my student came directly from work, went to class, and wasn't able to make it to my office hours. So we met afterwards. But they let me know ahead of time this was coming. And so I made an adjustment on my schedule. And that's what we're here to do. So again, take advantage of all these people that are here for you. Okay, let's see. I have a thank you. I'm in 8th grade and you have been very helpful and encouraging. Well, you're welcome. That's what we're here for, again. And I love it that we've got 8th graders here too, because The key is you start taking your classes in high school, you get those classes. You take the hardest classes you can get, you do well, and make sure that you're also stay involved. Because we want to make sure that students are going to be graduating. We also want to make sure that you are successful in college and you can start developing your study skills and your social skills while you're in high school. And that'll prepare you so that you can get into the best college for you that serves what you need for your major, for your family situation, for whatever it is that you may need. For me, I chose not to go to the big state school. I knew that I didn't want to go to a larger school, so I went to a small private school. My total student body was 1,200 people. That's it for my college. It's a small school. That's very different from the large state schools that may have 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 students. But I made the decision that was best for me. And others just love, being part of the larger institutions, and so they go to those schools. But again, think about it. What is it? And I actually, I'm a total nerd, and I agree. I admit it. I had my list of my institutions that I had applied to and had got accepted to, and I did a plus minus. What are the positives if I go to this school? What are the minuses if I go to this school? Do the pluses outweigh the minuses? Or are the minuses way too much? And that's kind of how I've done it for any of my degrees. I did it that way for my bachelor's, I did it that way for my master's, and I did it that way for my doc. So that's just kind of think of it that way. And so that way you see it from all different angles and you're ready to make your decision. Another question. Do you recommend getting a loan when you don't have scholarship money left? If you have exhausted all scholarship and grants, I do recommend applying for a student loan, but going for a federal student loan, not a private. Make sure that you exhaust all federal student loan options before you go for a private student loan, because the federal student loans will be given to you at a better interest rate, and they're able to work with you more on the payment plan. Also, make sure to only borrow what you need. Okay? Don't be borrowing extra money so that you can have more money so you can buy new tires for your truck. Okay? That doesn't work, because then, yeah, great, the truck's gonna help you get to school, but the tires, the fancy new tires, you didn't need that. And so what's gonna happen is that you're just gonna go more into debt. So if you do apply for student loans, I do recommend it, because I would rather have a student have a federal student loan a little bit and they're continue to go to school than them working and not spending time on campus. Because if we can keep them on campus, then we can keep them on track to graduate. Okay, we have a question on what's a good resource for undocumented students for college, guidance, financial aid, and even current research. There is, gosh, I can't remember the website right now. There's websites, and there's a Promesa. Oh my goodness, I had it on my phone. And so there are scholarships for undocumented students, and it depends on the state that you live in. So if you are in California, Colorado, Texas, they do also provide in-state tuition for our undocumented students. In Texas, you can also qualify for state and institutional aid. Okay, you can't qualify for federal student loans, but you can qualify for student aid. So grants and scholarships at the state level and at the institution level. In California, if you are in California and you're an undocumented student, you do qualify for the Cal Grant. I need to emphasize this because we have so many students who graduate from high school and don't apply for FAFSA, don't complete their FAFSA application, which is step one, you have to do that, and then they don't apply for the Cal Grant. So we've got 60% of our students apply for Cal, And that's free money. That's free money for you to go to school, whether you're documented or undocumented, and you can qualify for the Cal Grant. So that's 40% of our students leave money on the table. So make sure you take advantage of that. There is a list of scholarships that are for undocumented students. I do not remember the list at the top of my head right now. But you could send me an email. My email is ecgaldeano, ECGALDEANO @edexcelencia.org. So there, I will send you there was a new flyer that I just saw that has scholarships just for undocumented students. Ok, bueno, Norma, mi hija es la primera de 3 que va a ir a la universidad. Ella está en el grado 12 y la verdad yo no entiendo mucho inglés. Lo bueno que muchas de nuestras universidades también tienen programas donde ofrecen no solamente clases, pero ofrecen información para los papás en español. Y muchas de las universidades donde si uno nomás tiene que ir a preguntar, y van a tener a lo menos una persona a quien le puede ayudar y le puede dar información sobre la aplicación, sobre las becas, y sobre todo lo que tiene que hacer para que pueda llenar la aplicación y luego ir a la universidad. También aquí depende bueno, hay en las universitarias y luego hay también de Community College. Y también los consejeros de la prepa, ellos también pueden ofrecer información. Pero hay diferentes lugares, también por el internet, donde uno puede hallar información sobre eso. Si me quiere mandar un mensaje a mi email, entonces a sgaldeano, entonces también le puedo contestar, le puedo ofrecer otros lugares donde puede buscar información. Okay. Let's see. Para que me guíen paso a paso. Y bueno, Norma, también le quiero decir que haga preguntas a cualquier universidad donde va. Pregunte si hay alguien que habla español y que que ofrece programas, no solamente para los papás, pero no para los hijos, pero para los papás. Porque para que un estudiante gradúe de universidad, yo firmemente pienso que es porque es de familia. So I'll say this in English too, because many of our students don't want their parents don't speak English, and so they don't want to bring them into the campus. There are resources even at the various campuses. So ask if somebody there speaks Spanish. Ask them so that they can then provide some of the resources for your parents. Because in order to go to college, I am a strong believer that it is a family affair. It is all about all of us working together. And a family could be your parents. It can be your grandma who's taking care of your niece and your little brother. It can be an advisor is your family, can be your family member. A faculty member can be, they're there and you're working with them. So it really does take a whole, I mean, it's everybody working together so that we can be successful. And I'll leave y'all with one final thing. When it's time, when you graduate, because it's not an if, it's when, and because I believe in you that you will graduate, when you graduate, enjoy it. Make sure that you walk across that stage. So many of our students will say, oh, well, no big deal. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like getting in the cap and gown. It's such a waste of time. And I tell those students, you know, it's not about you. I mean, yes, you did the work, you did the schoolwork, and you moved forward. But it's also about your parents who helped get you there. It's also about your family who's looking at you. It's about your cousins, your nieces and nephews who you're serving as an example. It's everybody working together to help you accomplish this goal. So celebrate it, celebrate them, and you can do it. So way to go. Congratulations. I'm glad that you're here at this virtual college fair. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And you know, I'm here if you need anything. Again, Twitter, it's @mcalgal. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.